Bonjour, Carole Rapilly, je travaille donc pour la société.
Good morning. My name is Carole Rapilly. I work for Alfalaval, and I developed this process for our sector. Alfalaval puts forward solutions for thermal exchange and grape juice separation. I will tell you about an innovative process for juice separation. I will not go back to aspects pertaining to pressing. You all are familiar with that. You know that several techniques can be used. There are several pressing systems. We have, for instance, screw pressing, which, as a matter of fact, though, can be detrimental for the grape juice. And then we also have discontinuity, flow discontinuity, because you work in cycles, even though there is an increasing degree of automation nowadays, and juice always need an intermediate clarification or fining phase. Then there are decanters, which appeared some years ago on the market. They work continuously, and the suspended matter rate is much lower in decanters. Here we see the principle of the decanter. The grape comes into the machine on the right-hand side. That is the feeding part, so to say. It is fed into a container, and then there is a centrifugal force, 3,350 joules, and we have a separation of the liquid and solid phase. The seeds, the skins are removed by means of a screw system, which makes it possible to have perfect drying. And on the other side, you get the juice, which has already been separated by gravity. It is actually Stokes' law, which is applied here, and it is applied to density separation. This law clarifies parameters which have an impact on the effectiveness of the process. The diameter of particles is very important because this is actually double as much. There is also an agent that can be added in order to increase the diameter and in order to reduce decanting. In terms of duration, viscosity can be reduced by increasing temperature. And we also have gravitational acceleration. And here we have the centrifugal force and the velocity of sedimentation coming into play. In the case of continuous gravity separation, this is the formula that applies. The larger the surface, the bigger the capacity. Imagine you have this decanting tank, which is subjected to a centrifugal force. The decanter has a flow which is proportional to the sedimentation speed, but also to the surface, that is the size of the tank itself. Several works have been carried out, specifically by Rouge in France, but not only there, evidenced that the quality of the juice extracted from the decanter is comparable to a pneumatic press product in terms of pH, of volatility, and so on and so forth. The major difference lies in the efficacy of the separation process. What we see here are measurements. In blue, we have decanter extraction on a Prosecco juice. In yellow, we have cycles on pneumatic press. And then we have in the pneumatic press, the former is a drain process, and the second is a pressing. It's just pressing. In the total batch of the pneumatic press, the percentage is approximately 5% compared to the different results that you saw for the other two processes. Of course, you have also to do a sort of classification because the decanter separates particles based on the particle size. If particle size exceeds 20 microns, there is this separation. With the soft press, we have a different particle size action. The size is bigger. In terms of turbidity, the turbidity of the juice which comes out of the decanter is rather high, specifically if we compare and contrast it with the residual suspended solids. There is also different reflection of light on the part of particles, and it is turbidity which is oftentimes used as the key criterion for quality and for fermentation purposes. In order to obtain quality juice, Alfalaval, together with Perfect Wine and the Vazon Group, developed a new innovative process which is called Foodec Centrifuge. This is a process which is inspired by several things and sectors, with the flocculants, first of all. And in our sector, this is the scheme which is used. Grapes are fed into a buffer tank, which sees to the homogeneity of the grapes and of the flow. That is pumped then into the decanter, and an inline dosing system injects a clarifying agent at the entry of the decanter. The juice is very clear in the end. The turbidity is very low, and so the juice can be sent directly into the fermentation tanks. The products have gellifying properties. They will be presented shortly, and they have been specifically devised for this process in France, in Italy, and also in South Africa. This has been tested with continuous lines which can have a yield of up to 200, 250 or 80 hectoliters. Turbidity is reduced by 50% when compared to traditional decanters, and you can also get to even better results depending on the grape variety. An additional benefit is the fact that processing time is shorter. In traditional processes, you need a juice clarification phase in order to prepare the grapes, and that can be called processes or filtering or decanting. But there is also then a retreatment phase for lees. With Foodec Centrifuge, this phase has disappeared, and this means that you have fewer pre-fermenting processing phases. This, of course, entails advantages. Harvesting per se is simplified, and the entire process from the moment when the grapes arrive to the moment when they are put into the fermentation tanks is much shorter. You obtain a clean juice, optimum quality. You also gain in terms of less space, which is needed, and also consumable goods are less needed, and that goes for units which are needed for the process. Previously, it was difficult for companies and wineries to invest in a decanter as an alternative to the press, while in this case, costs are much lower. Extraction costs can be less than €2 per hectare. So this is indeed a benefit, and you also have an economic advantage in terms of the lack of need to process the lees. Now, the floor goes to Gianmaria Ciman. I would like to thank Cantine Teanum, Conselve, Vazon, and the Linde Group for their support. Later on, we will have Jean-Michel Salmon taking the floor about the decanter. Now the floor goes to the next speaker.